am sales director at Wiston Estate Winery. We're based in the South Downs near Findon and Stelling. So branding with regards to Wiston Estate. So everything about this is very much detailed. Pip, who's our sort of leader of the family, she has an incredible attention to detail. So when we were going through the branding process for the estate, it was first of all inspired very much by Pip's love of turquoise. She has this, well, pretty much every time you meet Pip, she's always wearing some form of turquoise, but she has this incredible, beautiful turquoise scarf that's her favourite item of clothing. And so that kind of ran its way through from a colour perspective, which you'll see on our non-vintage bottle here for our Brut non-vintage, and also for our Cuvée 13, which is on here as well. The next thing that you'll notice is there's a different shape of label between our non-vintage wine and our vintage wine. The non-vintage is a rectangular label, and then the vintage is an oval label. That's just to make it a little bit easier to work out between the two different styles of wines. Then another detail to make the difference between them is you've got the pewter foil that's on the neck for the non-vintage, and then you've got a copper foil that we have for the vintage cuvées, which you can also see. This is our vintage Blanc de Blanc. What we're doing also, in order to make a difference between the wines, is our non-vintage cuvées are all in these traditional shaped sort of champagne style bottles here, and then granted this one's going to be moving on soon, but the vintage bottles are all going to be moving into the slightly different shaped Italian shaped bottle, if you can see the difference, which are black in glass, and we've got a green glass for the non-vintage wines. Another bit of detail is on all of the wines you will see there's a crest, which is the Goring family crest, who own Wiston Estate. So that's what you can actually see. I mean, if it's looked in complete detail, you can actually see that it says Goring in at the bottom. So that's, the brand itself is very much a family brand, and that's us bringing, again, part of the family. Also on the back of the neck label for all of the wines is a Huguenot cross, which is just there. And that comes from Pip's family heritage. Her ancestors were part of the Huguenots in France, who fled France and because they were being persecuted, and ended up going to South Africa. And for the Huguenots, everywhere that they would settle, they would always plant a vineyard. So there's an ancestral connection with where Pips come from, where the vines are so important, which is actually she grew up in Franschhoek, which is a big wine region in South Africa. And actually both Pip and Kirsty, who's our marketing director, they both wear the Huguenot cross around their necks. So it's a big family connection again. One of my favourite details as well, actually, with the foil for the vintage cuvées, which just tear this slightly, is you can see that inside the foil is again the matching turquoise, which is our signature colour. So it's, when I said attention to detail, really meant attention to detail with this. Also, one of the other points is around all of the labels, there's this sort of pretty sort of pattern. This actually comes from the main hall in Wiston Estate, so Wiston House. When you go into the main hall, there's beautiful detailed plasterwork around all of the sort of ceiling, around the edge, and completely coincidentally, there are grapes in the plasterwork. So that has been incorporated again as being everything that comes as part of the estate and the family is so important to the branding. And so that has been incorporated as well. And finally, the font itself comes from the estate too. What you can see is we have paper boxes that were found around the entire estate from the 1700s and 1800s. which the font themselves actually is this. So we've taken that again, and that's inspired all of the writing that we use and everything that we do when we're sort of promoting our wines. So there's a lot of detail that goes into it. There's an awful lot of thought. The colour, when we're thinking about launching new products as well, we have a new Blanc de Noir 2010 vintage that's coming out soon. And we spent a lot of time discussing what we wanted to do, what would show off the wine best. It actually will have, so it will be going into the, it's actually, because it was bottled in 2010, it's actually going to be in one of the, this type bottle. But the wine itself is actually quite golden. So in order to set that off in the best possible way, and Blanc de Noir meant it was using with black grapes. So it will have an oval label like this, that's in black, but will have gold, rose gold embossed there in order to go with the gold colour of the wine. So it really complements it. But again, it will be oval, and it will look just like this with a slightly raised filigree that's inspired from the hall. And then the neck will, in keeping with all the rest of the vintage wines, will be copper again. And then we've actually got boxes that we've made up especially designed for it that are black with the gold Goring crest on them to go in keeping with everything else. And then inside it will actually be turquoise to keep in with the turquoise with the family colours. So there's a lot of detail whenever we're thinking about branding, that it all has to be in with the family, with our colour scheme, and with the crest and everything to do with the estate.